Hello, future math prodigies. It is I, Mr. Harrow, your teacher. So, today we are going to be going over synthetic division. Okay, so we already done this in class. However, this is for the students that either missed class, are a little confused, need the extra clarification on some things. This video just kind of to brush up on it. I'm going to try to do more of these in the future, but I just kind of forgot until today. All right, so let's just kind of get started with synthetic division. So synthetic division, in a way, is polynomial division. You've done polynomial addition, subtraction, and multiplication. If you need to brush up on those, please check out the 0115 video, which goes over the factoring review, goes over what you do in all three of those cases. This is when you're dividing. Let's kind of start the warm-up here because it's relevant to the lesson. Write the following polynomial in standard form. Hints from the highest to lowest exponent. So let's kind of go through what that means. We have a polynomial here. Again, this is a chain of different exponents, sometimes different letters and numbers that you cannot combine through addition or subtraction. So let's just kind of go to ordering real quick. Ordering something in standard forms means starting from the highest exponent and going down. So for example, if your highest exponent, like in this problem, is x to the fourth, that is what you're going to start with. So we can kind of cross that out and keep going. Again, the whole point of this is that you start from a higher exponent and go down. So if x to the fourth is your highest, then you go down to x to the third, x squared, and x. Then your constant. A constant is a number without a letter. You gotta treat that as like 0 if you want to in a certain sense. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Again, x to the first power is the same as x. And x to the 0 power is the same as just like some number without a letter. So let's go to the next one. So next, after 4, well, it's 3. So 6x to the third power will be our next one. I keep on from there. Now, after 3 is 2, but how peculiar, there is no 2 in this problem. Like, there's no squared term in this problem. So, what we're going to be doing then is instead of skipping over it and going to our next one, so since it's going to be relevant for our lesson, we're going to put 0x squared. And we finish up our problem here with our last two. X goes before the constant, so we're going to do minus 2x, and then finally plus 2. Because again, the constant is the last term. It is a part of the chain, so if it's not there, you'd also put a 0 there instead. But yes, and again, just to make sure that we did the right thing, count from highest exponent to lowest exponent. Make sure our highest is 4, then 3, then 2, then 1, then none. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. We have everything ordered, so we can go on. Now, that is the end of the warm-up. Let's go on to our notes. So when you are dividing, you have two important terms. The divisor, the divisor is two terms, specifically in synthetic division, and the exponent equals 1. It's going to be in some form like this, x plus or minus some number. Again, keep in mind, x on its own is the same as x to the first power. There's an invisible little 1. And the divisor is what you're dividing your dividend by. Now, what's our dividend? Well, in these polynomial multiplication problems, our dividend is this chunk here. Is the part you're dividing. The entire polynomial is our dividend. The coefficients of the dividend, in this case, are as everything to the left of each letter. To the left. Again, not the exponents. The exponents are more like a little hat the x wears. That little hat denotes how high of an exponent they have, but that is not the coefficient. The coefficient is specifically the number to the left of a letter. I really hope that Outlook sound didn't play on the computer. So, what we are going to do now is we are going to now find out the coefficients of each. So, the first one's the trickiest one. X cubed. What is the coefficient of a variable that has no number to the left of it? It's 1. If you don't see 1, it's technically 1. What was that? All right, it's 1. So that's going to be our first coefficient. Our next one is -5. Again, it's number to the left, not to the right. So -5, and again, minus signs are negatives. Our next one is going to be +6, and our last one, -3, because yes, even though without a letter, does count. Those are 4 coefficients. And then finally, our divisor in this problem is the second part. We already described at the top the divisor is 2 terms and the exponent equals 1. Well, our divisor in this case is this part here, x plus 4. That's really all the information we need to do synthetic division. So let's get on to doing it. All right, so now we're going to be going on to our example here for our steps. Now we're only doing example 1 for now. We'll do example 2 together in a second. First, we're just going to go through all the steps. This is synthetic division. This is the exact problem we actually had up here. Divide x cubed minus 5x squared plus 6x minus 3 by x plus 4. First, we're going to start with step 1. Draw a big L. It should look something like this. Probably a little better than that because my drawings are not great, but you get the vibe. Big L. Step 2. Take the opposite of the number in the divisor. So again, I'm going to highlight that. The opposite of the number in the divisor. Our divisor is x plus 4. So what is the opposite of that? Well, just look at the number, plus 4. What is the opposite of plus 4? Well, minus 4. So we're going to put minus 4 on the outside here. Pretty straightforward. Again, nothing too crazy yet. Or ever really in this. It's not a tough process. I believe in you. Step 3. Keep in mind, in these problems, you only need to write these things out once, but we're writing out each of the steps individually so you can get a flow chart of this. Step 3. Write the coefficients of the dividend inside the L. So again, I'm going to highlight that real quick. The coefficients of the dividend inside the L, not outside. In standard form. Again, they need to be ordered. So let's look back up here. What's our dividend? Well, we mentioned that earlier. It's this first chunk here. Dividend is this polynomial we're dividing. We talked about it earlier. And we already found our coefficients up here. 1, -5, 6, and -3. That's why we were doing this. Everything has a reason. So we're just going to line those up here. 1, -5, 6, and -3. That's where we're putting those. All right. Step 4. I have to redraw everything every time. Again, we're only going to do it for this time. That was a little thicker than I meant it to be. It still works. All right, synthetic division is going to start going to a loop of a kind. You'll see what I'm talking about later. Before we do that, what you have to do first is you need to bring down the first coefficient and place it below the L. So we're going to look at that real quick. What is our first coefficient? Well, it's 1. So bring it down below the L. We're bringing it down. That's really it for that step. But you have to bring it down before you do anything else. All right, step 5 and 6 are where we start doing the synthetic division. Once you have set up everything according to these first few steps, you're ready to get moving. Let's make sure I rewrite all this. Oh, that's not a good looking 3. All right, once it looks like this, once you have your numbers lined out like this, you can start doing the steps. So, you need to remember 2 important parts. Outside of the L is multiply, inside of the L is add. Outside multiply, inside add. So what do I mean by this? Well, we are on the outside right now, right? We have this -4 here. We have this 1. So since they are on the outside, we are going to multiply them. -4 times 1. Well, what's -4 times 1? Well, -4. Anything times 1 is itself. When you multiply them, you bring it into the next column. And now, we're going to go on to our next step. After you multiply, we are going to do some addition now, because now we're inside the L. We're outside multiply, inside add. So now we add up. What does that mean? Well, you're going to add up this column here. You're going to say, okay, what is -5 plus -4? Which is the same thing as saying -5 minus 4. That will give you -9. And hey, look at that. We're on the outside again. Remember what that means? Multiply. What's -4 times -9? Well, that's positive 36, because negative times a negative is positive. And hey, look at that. We're on the inside again. What does that mean? All right, when you say we're going outside multiply, inside add. Great job if you said add. If not, you get another chance at it. Don't worry. 6 plus 36 is 42. All right, now we're on the outside again. So what does that mean? Well, outside multiply. And again, the whole point of this, you keep doing this until you get to adding the last column. -4 times 42 is -168. And we're on the inside again, so what does that mean? Well, add -3 plus -168 is going to be -171. You're done here after you add up the last column. So now you should have these 4 numbers. Maybe it's 5, but all that matters is that you got to the end. When you have all these, you can make your answer. Your answer then is going to be, what's it called? Well, use these 4 numbers as coefficients for your new answer problem. So first, start with your first one, 1. And there's going to be x of some kind. And the power you start at is just 1 lower than the highest. Our highest exponent in this problem is 3. It's right here, kind of circled in the pink. It's 3. Look at your highest exponent, and you're going to start 1 below it. So if 3 is our highest, we start at 2. Then bring down our next number, -9. And what's after x squared? Well, x. All right, well, now we go to the next one. What's after x? Well, no constant. Or, not no constant, no variable, no letter. 2, 1, 0, and now we go on to our last one. The last one's a little weirder. You take your number, which is -171, you're going to make it a fraction. What's that fraction over? Well, it's going to be over your divisor. If you look back at the very top of the problem, our divisor, again, was x plus 4. So you're going to take that and put it at the bottom. And that's your final answer. I know it's a lot of arrows, a lot of stuff. I swear, once you start getting the habit, it's a lot less complicated looking. We're going to do that now with example 2. But again, just so you see the entire process of what we did, here kind of is make L, take opposite, put on the outside, coefficients at the top, bring down the first one, multiply and add, and then you get your answer from writing them out. So we're going to do example 2 together. I'm just going to do them in 2 boxes. All right, so example 2, our problem is divide 2x cubed plus 3x squared minus 4x minus 5 by x minus 3. Okay, so you have all we need to start the problem. First, we are going to draw our big L. I'm going to do it in these last 2 boxes here. I refuse to say the numbers. You can't make me. So first, draw our big L. And now on the outside, in this spot over here, we are going to be putting the opposite of the divisor. Again, that's your number with that 1x. So what's the opposite of that number? Well, our number here is -3. So what's the opposite of -3? +3. So we're going to put a +3 on the outside. All right, and lined up the top, we are going to be putting all of the numbers, all the coefficients of the divisor, or that long polynomial chain. So in this case, it is 2, 3, -4, and -5. And then, remember, before we start multiplying and adding, before we start doing that whole process, you need to bring down the first coefficient. So bring this 2 down. Oh, I couldn't turn it off. Bring this 2 down. And now once you got in here, you can start the chain. First, outside is multiply. So 3 times 2 is 6. Right, now we're on the inside. So now we add. Well, what's 3 plus 6? Well, it's 9. Around the outside again. And you just continue it. Again, by the way, when you're multiplying, you always do it by the number to the left of the L. You don't do it by anything that's on the bottom. So 3 times 9, well, that's 27. Well, and look at that, we're back on the inside again. Negative 4 and 27, what does that make? Well, remember, not multiplication, it's addition. So 23. We're on the outside, so again, we multiply. 3 times 23 is 69. Nice. And now, finally, we add up our last column. Negative 5 and 69 makes 64. Once you have all of your numbers down here, so we've added up all our columns, we start with the process of making our answer. So, again, look at the top here. Our highest exponent is 3. It's 3. So we're going to be starting at 2 for squared. So we're going to be starting at x squared. Coincidentally, the number we're starting with is also a 2. All right, now we go to our next one. Next is 9. And after x squared is x. After x, we have the constant, aka the number without a variable or a letter. Finally, we have our fraction, 64 over, and again, is over our divisor, which in this case was x minus 3. So we just put it at the bottom here. Nothing fancy about it. And there's our final answer. 2x squared plus 9x plus 23 plus 64 over x minus 3. And now we are going to finish this off by doing number 1 on the back. All in one box, no big steps being written anywhere. We're just going to do number 1. So, first thing we need to do, if my pen didn't turn off again, okay. First thing we need to do, draw our big L. A lot more room to work with now. All right, well, first we need our divisor, which again is this part here. The part that is doing the dividing, that is our divisor. Do the opposite of the number on the inside. So our inside is negative 2. So we are doing the opposite of that, which is positive 2. Again, you're doing the opposite sign. You're not doing the same sign. This should not be a negative 2. This should be a positive 2. Next, we need to take the coefficients of the dividend. Well, first one's pretty simple. Again, remember, if you don't see that variable or that number next to x cubed, that is going to be a 1. Next, we have 10. And next, we have negative 4. Now, you may think you're done here. Keep in mind, if there is any gap anywhere in synthetic division, you need to put a 0. You may have realized that there is no constant. And when I say constant, I mean, again, this last term that does not have a letter, which is each of these. These are constants, numbers without a letter. If that happens, you need to put a 0 as the last spot. You don't see one in this problem. It's just x cubed plus 10x squared minus 4x. There's no there's no number without a letter. So you need to put a 0 there. It's kind of similar like in number 6. You may notice there's no x here. So in this problem, our coefficients would be 1, negative 1, 0, negative 9. Just keep in mind, you need to keep an eye out for those gaps. We're not doing number 6, but I just want to make sure you're aware of that. All right, now we're going to get started. But before we start multiplying and adding, remember, drop down the first coefficient. You need to do that. Always drop down that first coefficient. All right, now that we did that, now you can start multiplying and adding. So remember, outside the L, multiply. 2 times 1, well, that's 2. Pretty easy. We're on the inside now, so now we're going to add. Remember, you just add in these columns. 10 plus 2 is 12. All right, well, we're on the outside again. So let's multiply. 2 times 24. That's, oops, I spoiled the answer. 2 times 12 is 24. All right, well, we're on the inside of a column again. -4 times 24. Not -4 times 24. I almost tricked you there. You might be thinking, hey, wait, we're inside is add, right? You would be correct. -4 plus 24. That's 20. On the outside again, 2 times 20. Well, that's 40. And then 0 plus 40. Well, that is going to be 40. Pretty straightforward process. And now we're here. So now we need to ask, okay, what is the highest exponent? Well, the highest exponent in this problem is 3. So we're starting at 2. Take your first number at the bottom of this list. We're just going to solve these. Take the first one. You're going to use as your first coefficient. So 1x squared plus 12x, because we're just going one exponent lower each time, plus 20 plus 40, and you're putting that over the divisor. Again, this divisor is this thing up here. X minus 2. That's it. Pretty fast once you get used to it. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. And I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Goodbye.